After episode 11, we are all left wondering who the person under the mask is, with people throwing out their theories on who the masked individual is. I have my own theory as to who it is, and the theory is quite different than the rest. So let me start debunking a few theories. People stated that it is Sumire, as she was the only member missing out of the entire class who participated in the fight with the masked man. But actually it is wrong, because there were two members from the entire Boruto team who were missing, both Sarada and Sumire who were missing, thus making Sarada one of the potential candidates, since we never saw her again after she came to visit Sumire in the morning. The second theory is that Sumire was trained under the members of Root, which is not possible since Root disbanded after Danzo's death. If Sumire was alive back then, she would be a lot older than all Boruto's classmates. The youngest members Root has ever recruited were Kakashi, Shizui, Sai, Yamato and Itachi, who were around 6 to 11 years of age. If Sumire was around that age when Root was still operating, she would be older than Mirai Sarutobi, who was still a baby during the time of Danzo's death. At this point in time, Mirai Sarutobi looks like she is in her mid-teens, since she was born years before Boruto and his classmates, which means Sumire should be in her late teens, so that theory is debunked. And that is all because Sumire would be alive to inherit Danzo's will, as the episode summaries say that the person has inherited Danzo's will. Either they inherited it because they were there when Danzo was still ordering everyone around, or they learned about Danzo's will. So that is also a factor as to why Sumire is not the person, since she was not even alive when Danzo was there to even inherit the will or even learn it in the first place. So that in a way debunks this theory. Now this theory is my theory, and I call it the cycles theory because I make it, I name it. So my theory is different from all the other ones I've heard, which all are similar since they all point to one person, which is Sumire. Now my theory is that there could actually be 2 out of 3 candidates behind this operation. So to calculate the potential identity of the masked person, we need to present all the information we have been given so far about the individual. We have evidence from 2 people, which are Sai and Shikadai, as well as info from the episode summary. So the summary say that Naruto and the rest, which could be everyone else, are shocked to learn the identity of whomever is behind the operations. However, who wouldn't be shocked after learning that someone they trusted tried to betray them? Since Naruto and everyone else will be shocked after knowing the identity, it means that Naruto and everyone else knows who the person is, and we also don't know who everyone else is. It could be Boruto's class, it could be the higher ranking ninja, so definitely we don't know who everyone is. So that is really not helpful information to determine who is behind the attacks. So basically we are going to go with the episode summaries as well as what Sai and Shikadai said. So we have Sai, who stated the person has knowledge of Hashirama cells. If anyone knows about Hashirama cells, it will be the members of Root and Orochimaru, since they all know about Hashirama cells and are passing it to each other like a blunt. So definitely it is someone who knows how Hashirama cells work, and a person who has researched it, or at least has knowledge about the Hashirama cells, and we know that it's only Root members who know this. And with that being said, the person might be from Root, as the episode summary says they have inherited the will of Danzo. Since Danzo would be around to all the people around, the person would be naturally someone who has heard Danzo speak, or at least has been inspired by Danzo. And if you put 2 and 2 together, it all adds up to being an adult, and we heard the voice of an adult near the end of episode 11. However, the masked individual has a small body figure, which makes them appear very young. This does not necessarily mean they are young, since there have been characters who are older yet of equal length or shorter than Boruto. For example, Chino from Sasuke's story, or the bureau chief, who is lacking in height, as Boruto mentioned this himself. So the height of the figure would not be much of a pointer to whom the person is. However, Shikadai said they must be close to Boruto and friends to know their movements, meaning whomever it is either of the same age or the same height. Since there is no adult their height around them, it is safe to assume that it is someone around their age. People say it looks feminine, but I don't know how it is possible to make out the figure of an individual, since they are dressed in an attire which clearly hides their figure. Others do mention the feet, but at the same time it could be anyone's feet, so it is not enough to identify a person's gender by their feet, since feet all come in different shapes and sizes. So far, let me sum up what we have. So we have a person who is old enough to learn or carry out Danzo's work after Danzo died, and the person knows about Hashirama cells as well as how to use it. The person has a deep voice and is the same height or age as Boruto and his friends, potentially even one of them. Same age means the person does not have a deep voice, and neither did we hear the voice of the masked individual since people would recognize it, so they are definitely close to Boruto as well as being a kid. Secondly, we never saw whom spoke with the deep voice near the end of the episode, and if it was the masked individual, they would have shown the individual talking since they have already revealed the figure. So that proves it is not the masked kid who is talking, meaning that there were two people behind the whole operation, a full-grown adult and a kid the same age as Boruto, helping the adults monitor Boruto's movements. Now listen to this carefully, because this is who I think is behind it. So the conclusion is that the adult is the one who inherited Danzo's will, as well as using special ninjutsu to monitor Boruto after finding out he was investigating the Niue's attacks. Except Mitsuki and Shikadai, none of Boruto's friends knew about his investigation until episode 10, where he told Sarada he could see the chakra snake's influence on people as well as how to stop them. My theory is Sarada is one of the two candidates who are being used to spy on Boruto, as she is the same age and no one would suspect a thing. Furthermore, she was not present when the masked man attacked, but she was there in the morning next to Sumire. We all know Sarada is low-key Boruto's stalker, and she has done this many times without being noticed, so there is no one better for the role of monitoring Boruto than Sarada. Apparently she goes to her tutor whom teaches her, so there could be a possibility that she is either with her tutor or she is the masked individual who is being controlled by her teacher in order to monitor Boruto, after Sarada said she would report the whole thing to an adult after fighting Kagemasa. The teacher must be a skilled individual, thus allowing them to teach at all. Also, whomever is behind the attacks has the power to possess people as well as open and go into dimensions in which the Niue is in, so them having the ability to control someone is very likely possible, as well as it being Sarada, since she reported the whole Kagemasa thing to her teacher, whom would have used her to monitor Boruto from stopping the possession since his eye can see them, as well as being aware that Boruto has the potential to stop every individual attack. Because remember, Sarada says that she just came from a tutor, and after she came from a tutor, an attack happened. And also keep in mind that we have never seen this tutor, even though she mentioned the tutor an episode ago. So if it turns out that Sarada is the one behind the attacks, or at least help the adult who is launching the attacks, then they would launch the attacks logically with Sarada, thus making it seem like the masked person or the person behind the attacks is a kid, thus taking the suspicion of an adult. It would be very shocking for everyone, just like the episode summaries say, to find out it was Sarada's tutor who was behind the whole operation whilst using Sarada to impersonate them, so the suspicion would be put on a kid, just like Shikadai has done, as well as everyone else who has been theorizing that the entire attack was just a kid who was causing all this havoc. Now the second person I suspect is Sumire, but I don't really suspect her to be much involved with everything at all. So the reason why I suspect her is because she was not present at the fight against the masked person. However, she was already injured and put inside the hospital, so definitely she has been rendered helpless, or at least she could not help in that situation. And also, she is the only person to be attacked twice by people under the influence of the chakra snake. Maybe she did that to divert the suspicion from herself, as she would pose as one of the victims, but I doubt that Sumire would actually go as far as let herself get knocked out unconscious inside a water pipe, which could have potentially caused her to drown, thus killing herself, or let Magiri attempt to sexually harass her. Because let's be real here, after Magiri captured her, the chakra's influence would have gotten worse, thus causing Magiri to force himself on Sumire, and that, my friend, is rape. If Sumire is willing to go to those extreme lengths to take the suspicion off herself, then she is more fucked up in the head than people thought. She wouldn't be the innocent or vulnerable person they have been trying to capture her to be in the anime, so the possibility of her being the perpetrator is really slim in my eyes. But in a situation where there could only be two people behind it, her chances are 50%. As for the whole ninja wearing bandages, we've seen countless ninja wear bandages. Metal Lee has bandages on his arms, Rock Lee used to have bandages on his arms, we've seen Mu who is all covered up looking like a mummy. So the whole thing about ninja wearing band-aids is something that we've seen, and any ninja can actually wear band-aids and attack anyone. But then again, it is also something that could factor in the identity of the person. So it could be Sumire, since she is also covered in bandages, but we have not seen her legs to confirm that her legs have been bandaged as well. What we know is that her helmet was off her head and she hurt her head, so logically her head was what would have been bandaged. Another theory is that Sumire actually joined the water plant in order to learn the entire pipe system, but as a villain, why would you already start a plan without knowing the escape route to get away when you are in trouble? So in a way, it's either the villain is dumb, which we know is not the case since the villain was probably trained by someone who inherited Danzo's will, or if they are being controlled, then it means that the person who is controlling them through the pipelines, which they already know. And since they are an older person who used to be en route, it is logical that they know the in and outs of Konoha. So Sumire just going to the water plant is not something really reliable to use as evidence. Mitsuki probably knows who the kid is, but not the adult, thus keeping it a secret, since he is debating whether to tell them the teammate is the person who is being controlled by the adult. Maybe he's wondering whether to give them the information that it is Sarada or Sumire, and if that is the case, the information will spread and the adult will try and use another kid, since his secret about controlling Sarada is out. So maybe Mitsuki is keeping the piece of information to make sure that it does not spread, thus alerting the person who is behind the attacks. So my simple reasoning for an adult being behind it is that no kid has the ability to research Hashirama cells as well as understand how to use it to open dimensions and conquer its beasts to use as a weapon, except if they are from root or trained by a member from root, because all the stuff they are doing is Kage level shit, which only Danzo's root members are fully capable of doing. And also Sai said it's a root member who should be an adult, whilst Shikadai says it's a kid, and those are contradicting each other. The only way that would make sense is if there are two people doing the job, which would make a good twist. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I might be right, I most likely will be wrong because this is a theory. Let me know what you think about my theory though, and whilst you are doing that, like and subscribe if you really enjoyed this video as well as my theory, and share the video for others to know the cycles theory. And with that being said, I have nothing more to say. Bye.